Let's look at the prompt. What does the text indicate about the geological formation? Looking at the passage, paleontologists searching for signs of ancient life have found many fossilized specimens of prehistoric human ancestors, including several from this era, discovered in a formation in a certain quarry in Japan. However, to study the emergence of the earliest multicellular organisms to appear on Earth, the researchers must turn elsewhere, such as this formation in Canada, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The 146-hectare reserve contains a bunch of fossils that together document a critical moment in evolutionary history. So the main idea is that there's a site in Japan that shows us signs of ancient life of prehistoric human ancestors. But there's another site where the earliest multicellular organisms to appear on Earth are being found, and that site is somewhere in Canada. And that site contains more than 10,000 fossils that together document a critical moment in evolutionary history. So it sounds like that's going even earlier, because as opposed to being prehistoric human ancestors, this one has the earliest multicellular organisms, which by definition is going to be even older than the first fossils. So let's look at the answers now. The question is asking us about what's going on at mistaken point. And let's look at the answers. Does it have a greater number of fossils from a smaller variety? We didn't really see smaller variety because although we have the number of them here, we don't have the number that existed at the first site. Looking at B, it has evidence that the earliest human species may have emerged before this era. That sounds pretty good because we have that era for the first fossils, and it does appear like the second group of fossils is from an earlier time period because they're multicellular. So let's save this one. Looking at C, it's widely considered to be the most valuable source of information about prehistoric life forms. We didn't really see mention that one is more valuable than the other, even though that's kind of maybe loosely implied, but we didn't see any judgment like that being mentioned. And D, it contains specimens from an older time period than those found in the other quarry. That sounds just as good as B. So let's decide between the two. Coming back over to B, we're seeing that it's talking about the earliest human species, which is not what it had. It had the earliest multicellular organisms. So that's a little way off if we're talking about the mistaken point, which is the second group. So the second group had multicellular organisms, not early human species, so we can get rid of that one. And so the answer to this one is going to be D.